We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Thursday, May 7th here in Seoul. I'm Isujin, and this is News Generation. And joining us today to represent the Gen Z is Luan.
Good to be here.
Good to have you. Also tunes with us today.
Happy birthday.
Happy Thursday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're almost at the end of the work week, and as we head into the weekend, it's a good time to check in on one of the essentials of a happy life, your health. So whether it's staying active, eating well, or simply getting enough rest, taking care of yourself isn't always easy in the middle of a busy schedule. So today we're taking a closer look at how people are managing their health and what simple habits can make a real difference. So Jian, what about you? How do you manage your health?
Well, I truly believe that a healthy lifestyle starts with good habits every day. So I like to bring boiled eggs every day. That means I eat protein every single day with some vegetable and try to avoid carbs as much as possible. But although it's hard to say no to a nice piece of bread every day, and I also avoid sugary foods, oily foods, and refined flour as much as possible. And I do exercise a little bit every single day, maybe 20 minutes of strength training with my dumbbells, but it's short, and I do know that I stick to it every single day. It's consistent. And one more thing, I make conscious effort to walk every single day as much as possible. If the distance is quite short, I try avoiding taking those taxis or a bus sometimes, and I walk instead of that. So nothing fancy at all, just good habits in order to maintain good health lifestyle.
I mean, all this is so impressive. You're saying this so casually, but like you're
Really?
eating clean. You're also walking to places where
Can't avoid snacks or bread though.
That's so hard to do, honestly. So what about you, Luan?
For me, I agree with Jihyun and always try to create new habits that are good for my health. I personally often exercise. I go to the gym 3 times a week to grow some muscles and dance on the weekend with my friends. These days, I'm trying to stretch every night, and even if it's not a success yet, I still keep trying until it becomes a habit. I also have a strict sleep habit. I always sleep early and wake up early, and I try to not change that routine as much as possible. However, recently I hurt my lower back because I was sitting for too long in a bad posture during my homework for school and exercise while I was already in bit in pain. So these days, I'm trying to have a better posture when I'm sitting down.
But I think it's so impressive that you're sleeping early and waking up early. As a university student, it's not always easy to do that.
I have to. I have to. This is my life, sleeping early and waking up early.
So that really shows how health management is often about balance and consistency and not perfection all the time. So we're going to talk more about this, but first, let's take a look at the screen. Health management was once seen as something for the older generations, but that perception is changing fast. More young people are now taking a proactive approach to their well-being, as data shows a troubling rise in cancer diagnosis among the younger age groups. Today on News Generation, we take a look at why more young people are being affected by cancer, how the younger generation's attitude toward illness is evolving, and what they're doing to protect their health. Just as we saw in the video, cancer is no longer seen as a disease of old age. It's increasingly affecting younger people as well, and that shift is raising new concerns about early risk factors and prevention. So are cancer cases really rising among people in their 20s and 30s, Jian?
Yes, that's right. As we have seen in the video, well, we already noticed that, and in the past, in fact, cancer was considered a disease affecting the older generations, but now we have a totally different story. In recent years, the number of cancer patients in the 20s and 30s are on the rise. As you can see, well, the figure has steadily increased over a year. It rose from 129,000 back in 2000, that is 2000, to 145,000 in 2024. That's a roughly 12% increase over the period. A clear upward trend indicating that cancer is becoming more common among younger adults. How about the health-related medical care? Well, according to National Health Insurance this insurance service, the number of young adults receiving cancer treatment continues to rise. And based on data from the Health Insurance Review and Assessment Service, thyroid cancer cases among people in their 20s and 30s have increased by over 14% over the past 4 years. And while colorectal cancer have also surged by 82% over the past 5 years. Can you believe that? 82%? That's quite a lot indeed. And what's even more concerning is that South Korea now ranks first in the world for the colorectal cancer incidence among people aged between 20 and 49. According to The Lancet, which is a highly respected medical journal, there were 12.9 cases per 100,000 people in 2023. What's striking is that this so-called Western cancer is now more common in Korea than in countries like Australia or the United States. So the numbers are rising right now, and they are sending a clear message to us.
So I mean, the numbers really do point to a growing red flag. So what once felt distant is now hitting much closer to home for many people in their 20s and 30s. But this personally makes me wonder, however, is this trend unique to Korea, or are we seeing this globally as well?
Yeah, no, this trend is not unique to Korea. Similar increases in early onset colorectal cancer have also been observed in North America, Europe, and Oceania. In fact, according to a new global cancer study led by senior author Tomotaka Ukai, 10% of global colorectal cancer cases already occur in people under 50. France is also seeing this trend among younger adults. According to a recent French health article, breast cancer is the most common cancer among young women, and its incidence has been increasing by about 1.6% per year. The article suggests several possible causes, including obesity, sedentary lifestyles, alcohol and tobacco consumption, unhealthy diets, and environmental factors such as pollution and endocrine disruptors.
So all this really puts things into perspective. It's not just a domestic issue, but a worldwide shift happening at a kind of a striking pace. And beyond the data, what's just as important is whether people are actually feeling this change in their daily lives. So have you noticed more illnesses affecting younger people lately around you, maybe?
Maybe because I'm still a student, I haven't personally seen any of my friends or people around me getting like serious illnesses or cancer.
I mean, it's good news.
Yeah, I think I've been really lucky in that sense. However, on social media, I do see many people in their 20s sharing cancer diaries where they document their treatment journey and recovery process.
Right, you do see them more on YouTube or like social media, forms of social media. So what about you, Chu?
Yeah, I have seen quite a few people around me who have been diagnosed with cancer, like my close friends, my sister-in-law, and also my son's tutor as well. And some had to go some surgery as well. Well, so it's happening around us to people that we know. So it's not something that feels distant right now. I also noticed that there are many stories and pieces of information online about younger cancer patients these days. And what's also concerning is breast cancer. Luan mentioned a little bit. I'm going to add a little bit on that. Well, South Korea has a relatively high number of young breast cancer patients compared to Western countries. In fact, patients aged 40 or younger make up nearly 38% of breast cancer under these cancer cases. Well, it really shows that this is no longer just an issue that we can ignore, and it was in the older generation in the past. So it's time we should raise awareness of this issue right now.
While some of the increase in the number of patients we're seeing among younger people may be due to the more accessibility, the more access that we have to health checkups, all this still shows how much the perception around cancer really has changed. So what once felt like a distant issue affecting older generations is now something many young people are encountering through friends, family, or even online communities. So to get an expert's perspective on this, we're going to speak to a doctor who specializes in family medicine, primary care, and health screenings. And that conversation is coming up right after break, so don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
And joining us today is Dr. David Kwok, an assistant professor at the International Clinic at Soonchunhyang University. So hello, Professor. Thank you so much for connecting with us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. Professor, so what is driving the rise in cancer among younger people?
Well, I was kind of surprised because you already described it so well among the three of you. What we're clearly seeing worldwide is the global trend towards metabolically related cancer occurrences. And I don't want to come off wrong in saying that it's solely metabolically related, because all cancers are pretty much chance occurring, meaning there are multifactorial chances for things of different natures to actually come together to cause one cancer. But even having said that, more of recent occurrences that we see among young people is that a rise in colorectal cancer, rise in occurrences of breast cancer and so forth, which are very much hormonally related and are to be believed that it stems from changing diets and more and diets with more processed foods and so forth.
So you already talked a bit about it, but which cancers are most common among younger patients?
Right. So currently, the most common cancer type we're seeing in Korea is definitely thyroid cancer, but that has been so for more than a decade now, which is followed by breast cancer. But what we're seeing changing these days is colorectal cancer, more specifically. That has stepped up from where it used to be in the lower in the list. Now it is very high ranking, still followed up by other types of early onset cancers, such as leukemia and a very common in Korea, such as gastric cancer. But once again, what we're seeing in the changes is mainly definitely trends towards possibly metabolically related or daily habits, such as lack of exercise and sedentary lifestyles and so forth.
I see, Professor Park. Then why does cancer pose a greater risk for younger age groups?
And once again, there would be many different factors that account for aggressiveness in younger patients, but one is the fact that cancers occurring in younger patients tend to be more aggressive in nature. Even pathologically, once they are found in younger patients, they tend to be higher stage, later stage, delayed in diagnosis, and so forth. But another factor is that the younger that you get diagnosed into cancer, there is also high chances of recurrence, meaning it can happen once again in your lifetime. So definitely younger patients rising in their numbers, in cancer numbers, are something to be concerned about.
Right. So then besides cancer, then, so what are some other diseases that are becoming more common among younger people? And also, what can, I guess, young people do to kind of, prevent this?
Right. And I can actually personally attest to this. And just before I left the country to have some time overseas, I was seeing actually a greater number of younger patients coming in with metabolic syndromes and metabolic diseases, such as hypertension, dyslipidemia, hypercholesterolemia, and even just for the matter, obesity, now that we can regard obesity as a disease entity. But it's the obvious that as a preventative measure that we can take against them is really having routine daily lives of exercises and also trying to eat food sources that are not as processed, meaning they shouldn't be condensed. They should retain as much of the natural form as they can, and minimizing eating either out in a restaurant or from taking to-goes or for ordering for foods for deliveries and etc., but rather making your own food with the natural resources.
Right, so I will be signing up for those cooking classes now, as usual.
That's a good idea.
As usual, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, Professor.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just spoke to an assistant professor of family medicine about what's driving the rise in cancer among younger people, which cancers are most common among younger patients, and why cancer can be more dangerous for younger patients. And it's clear that how people perceive and talk about illness today is very different from the past. So how are younger generations changing the way they view and I guess share illnesses, Jian?
Well, I do believe that the attitudes towards illness have changed quite a lot among the younger generations. Well, in the past, being diagnosed with a serious illness like cancer, where people hide it, so they thought it was a kind of private thing, and also a misfortune thing as well. And but these days, they are willing to talk about it, especially those in Gen Z choose to document it and share their experiences as content. I'm sure that you have seen many YouTube channels, Instagram vlogs that they share their medical journal after being diagnosed with cancer. And they talk about it openly, finding comfort and support from the audience, and while also sharing useful information with them as well. And also, there's a study. Studies show that online illness communications can improve the patient's emotional well-being and access to some practical information for the patients as well. But now, so people don't think it's an individual problem, individual issue, personal problem as well. So overall, it feels like there are more openness, empathy, and awareness than before. So it's now less silence, but more understanding now.
Right, and I think it's really important to get rid of that stigma around illnesses and just to talk about it is really important as well, so people feel less alone. So how are younger patients then navigating daily life while trying to, work with this illness?
Yeah. So many younger patients still try to maintain a normal life even after being diagnosed with cancer, since they are often students or early in their career. Many continue attending classes or working during treatment in order to preserve their routines, financial independence, and social life. Some adjust their schedules around hospital visits, work remotely, or reduce their workload while undergoing treatment. However, balancing illness with everyday responsibilities can be extremely difficult physically and mentally. Young cancer patients often experience fatigue, emotional stress, and cognitive difficulties that affect their studies, work performance, and relationships. But despite this, many patients today are more open about their illness than in the past. Like Julian said, through social media, they share cancer diaries, documenting their treatment and recovery journeys, while also finding emotional support from online communities.
Right, and it shows how strongly many still want to hold on to their routines and identities even while managing their health. At the same time, there's an interesting contrast when it comes to how much this generation values wellness. So isn't it kind of ironic that this generation is known for wellness and being very health conscious, that they're actually getting more sicker?
That's an interesting point indeed. Well, Gen Z, we do care a lot about our health lifestyle as well. There are many contents, what to eat, what not to eat in the early morning, and exercise this and that in this posture or not. For instance, slow aging or anti-aging has become quite of a thing, quite of a trend these days and on social media. And many people also pay close attention to blood sugar management. There is a long list of foods people say you should never eat on your empty stomach in the early morning. And there is even a concept called healthy pleasure. So you are enjoying your life and still taking care of your health at the same time, not being too strict to yourself. So in many ways, this is a generation that really cares about our health. But here's the interesting part, that there's something is not quite adding up here. Listen, despite all this awareness, some studies actually suggest that younger generations may be aging faster and getting health problems earlier, even though we'd have those overwhelming amounts of information online. So this is often linked to overconsumption of food, excessive diet, excessive high levels of stress, obesity that Professor Kwak mentioned earlier. So more awareness, but more risk. So that's the paradox I'm talking about.
So that contrast really does stand out, putting so much effort into health, yet still facing earlier illnesses. So that might suggest there may be deeper lifestyle or environmental factors at play. So why are health-conscious young people still facing more illnesses, Long?
Even though many young people today exercise regularly, track their diets, and pay more attention to their health, they are also exposed to new risk factors linked to modern lifestyles. Researchers point to issues such as chronic stress, sedentary routines, processed food consumption, as the doctor said earlier, pollution, and lack of sleep as possible contributors. In addition, younger generations are constantly exposed to health-related information online, which has increased awareness of illness, but may also increase anxiety and pressure surrounding personal health. I can relate to that myself. When I was younger, I remember searching online because my gums or teeth looked gray. And after reading conflicting articles, I became convinced I had cancer. I panicked and eventually had to ask my mom about it. And I think that shows how easy it is today for health information online to create anxiety, especially among younger people.
I think, especially with generative AI, you tend to look up stuff and you're like, am I gonna die?
Yes.
So that's true. Access to health tools and information has never been better. But with that constant stream of data, it may also be shaping how people think and also worry about their health. And that raises questions about the psychological side of all of this. So we wanted to hear directly from our viewers as well. So we ran a poll on the Iodine News YouTube channel asking, what do you focus on most to prevent illness? And here's what the results showed. So when it comes to preventing illness, the top priority for most people is healthy eating, with 39% saying they focus on their diet. This is followed by getting enough sleep at 31%, highlighting the growing awareness around rest and recovery. Meanwhile, 16% say they prioritize regular exercise, and 14% focus on avoiding alcohol and smoking. So the results are quite interesting. Diet and sleep clearly stand out as the top priorities, while exercise and cutting out alcohol or smoking seem to take more of a backseat. So these results show people know what matters, but turning habits into action is the real challenge, which is quite relatable. So what can people actually do to better their health, Jian?
I think you mentioned all the important elements earlier in the survey. Well, we do know the theory. We know what to do. The challenge is taking action right now.
And being consistent.
That is
correct.
That is right, being consistent. Well, one thing is clear, as you mentioned, we need to start taking care of our health from an early age, which is right now. So many illnesses today are closely linked to modern eating habits, what we consume every day, such as oily foods, refined flour, sugary diets, and highly processed products. We should avoid eating them. And we need to make a conscious effort to choose healthier foods at the same time. Managing stress is quite important because it affects your overall health condition and affects your long-term condition as well. And of course, regular exercise is not optional, it's essential because it makes a real difference to your health. And perhaps we should get more sleep like Luan does every single day, because, you know, putting our phone down a little bit. So we do know all those tips now. We don't need more of the tips. We need more action. No more excuse, just action.
The thing is, it sounds simple in theory, but it's also always so hard to put it into practice. And I guess it really comes down to consistency from a young age. And beyond daily habits, also obviously early detection also plays a very key and important role. So how important are regular checkups in staying healthy? Korea is also really known for having those checkups super accessible.
And regular checkups plays a major role in prevention and early detection. In Korea, for example, people covered by the National Health Insurance System can receive health screenings every 2 years, which helps detect potential health problems at an earlier stage. I actually know someone who discovered a non-cancerous colon polyp during a health checkup required by his company. He had no symptoms at all, so without that screening, he probably would not have found out early. I think that really shows the importance of regular checkups and preventive healthcare, even for younger adults who feel completely healthy.
Right. So as cancer and other illnesses become more common among younger generations, health is no longer something many people feel they can put off until later in life. From diet and exercise to regular checkups, small everyday choices are becoming increasingly important. And perhaps the biggest shift of all is that younger people are no longer staying silent about illness. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. A big thanks to Luan.
Thank you for having me.
And also Juan.
The pleasure is mine.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully the only thing that will be spreading fast in your life is healthy habits. We are
News Generation.